M.A.S.S Builder is a new mech fighting game where you're playing as a newly formed private mercenary company looking to make a name for yourself while saving the world. I believe the goal of this game is to build the coolest looking robot possible, and that's handled through one of the deepest customization systems I've ever seen. Not only can you pick every little piece of the armor that's on our frame, but we can paint each piece to our own liking, even going as deep as customizing the nitty-gritty decals. This provides us with the motivation to go unlock new and extra fancy components. To provide us with context for these missions, there's a story that is delivered in a visual novel-like style. Before we dive deep into this game, I would like to thank Vermillion Digital for sponsoring this video. The game recently became available on Steam and is currently available in early access, or as a smaller free demo. The game as presented today is only part of a much larger roadmap with an estimated release in 2021. The devs are looking for feedback and ideas to help improve the game as it's developing, so feel free to leave those in the comment section below. Alright, so welcome to my campaign. Now I've been playing here for a couple of hours, so I've already kind of customized the armor the way I like it right here, but we will take a deep dive here into this and really make a cool frame. But we're going to get into some action before I go ahead and do that, because you can spend a lot of time here. Just to give you an idea, if you take a look at the backpacks alone, there's 20 different options. I haven't unlocked all of them just yet. However, if you take a look at all of these different pieces right here, there's 20 options, and then there's even more that currently aren't available in this version of the game. But as you really dig through this, you can see that there's so many different types of components that you can mix and match together to make the coolest looking robot that you want to make right there. So, and one of the coolest things that I haven't shown you just yet here is that you can customize your own weapons. Now this is pretty dope. So if you take a look at our melee weapons right here, this is like a glow lance. You can actually name your weapon, but on top of this, you can actually pick your own grip styles and then match them with the head of the weapon. So you can see that we have pole arm, or at least I'm using a pole arm right here, but I can switch this to a knuckle guard, or I can do something that's kind of like a battle fist right there, and you can beat somebody down with a big blob of glowy metal stuff right there. You can really mix and match this in many different ways and really kind of come up with something neat that fits your playstyle right there. I think it's pretty cool. Oh gosh, look at that. That was cool. All right. Yeah, again, you can spend a lot of time just playing around right here. So that's pretty cool right there. And this actually applies to shooters as well. So bullet shooters, obviously your physical weapons, and then your kind of energy shooters. That's another weapon that you take with you. Then you have these bullet launcher things that go out and blow stuff up, and these pods that can fly around and pew 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 the enemy kind of all on their own if you bring them or not. And you can bring multiples of these actually with you into battle and kind of swap them out and play with different ones. However, your ammo is shared between all of these weapons of the same style, so you might switch from one to the other based on its damage type if that's what you want. However, you do have to bear the weight of both weapons. So I think the weapon system is really cool the way it is. However, I would like to see a little bit more of diversity within the same category. So for example, this two-handed trigger right here doesn't really seem to do anything different than that two-handed trigger. They have the same ammo count, the same fire rate, as far as I can tell. It's just more cosmetically different. I think if those were slightly different, maybe one has a bigger ammo capacity but shoots slower sort of thing, that would actually kind of add a little bit more diversity to the weapon set. So since we're looking for feedback, I think that's one area of improvement. All right, so let's go ahead and jump into a mission here just to show you how all of these weapons work. So this is the very first mission outside of the tutorial. I think there's a lot of really good things about this map, which I kind of want to talk about. Essentially, we've been contracted by the World Defense Force to come out here and check on these different towers. The problem is that there's corks around and we got to kill all the enemy corks here. So Rena is basically the coordinator. She talks to us and lets us know what we need to do. And these are the cork guys. So these are the very basic enemy that we end up fighting. And then everything after this is variations of the same aliens, but some of them fly and all that good stuff. It's pretty cool. Essentially, I'm just beating them up with my weapon right now. You can see that we have a lock on here, so when we're in this mode, we're actually kind of just tracking that one individual enemy. You can obviously switch between them if we kind of roll the mouse a little bit right here. But you don't necessarily need to lock onto them. We can fly around right here, just kind of aim down sights normally to fire a gun. Or we can be looking at one just like that. So those are your two primary ways of tracking enemies. And then you use different weapons to kind of down the enemies as need be right here. Pew, 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 pew. Eat lasers. Or big old rockets. Boom, sucker. Alright, well, let's get rid of this guy. And move on from like the very first little spot right here into the next zone. So we need to investigate this tower, make sure it's in good working condition. It's not. Alright, so we cleared all the enemies from one area, so now we're just going to run over here and we're going to rinse and repeat the same sort of thing, but this time with more enemies. So those guys are invulnerable just for a little bit right there. The game does play around with invulnerabilities, whether it be an object that kind of shows up that you have to destroy, and you know how that all works out. But we're gonna line them up and blow them down with all of the rockets that I have right there. Ooh, gotta be careful. And then kind of using my jets to run in there with the sword. I like doing that because it kind of knocks them and stuns them back, and you can actually combo up a couple of moves to really get a lot of damage down on them. I'm using my projectile launcher here because it actually does a lot of AoE. So when these guys are all gathered up like this is a good weapon to use. Or the launcher, because that actually does area damage in front of me. But if I wanted to focus one down, I could switch over here to my energy weapon and just focus directly on that one single target. That's actually becomes really, really useful, especially when you have a lot of enemies, but only certain ones are actually hard to dodge, right? So I guess what I'm saying there is some of them will actually shoot at you or are a little bit more mobile, whereas the ones that are running at you like this one, you can kind of just strafe them and keep them away from you. So there's definitely things that you want to prioritize one over the other. The thing I like about this map, as compared to some of the other maps here, is the fact that they have some terrain in them, like this. And you notice that I was using that island to kind of create some separation between me and the enemy that was chasing me. I think that's a really good thing, especially in mech games like this, mech fighters. I was a big fan of Armored Core and also the other game, what is it? Gundams, those were fun too. And I always feel like mech games make a good use of actually playing with the terrain because you have big jetpacks and you have some vertical aspect to what you can do here. So rather than just having like a big field with a bunch of enemies in it, using that terrain and using your jetpack to really use the terrain to your advantage is super interesting, at least in my opinion. So this is the boss guy. He's definitely a lot bigger than the other guys. And you kind of want to dodge him for a little while. Woo! Gotta watch out here. I'm going to try to gather up a lot of the little minions here. And then I'll just take care of them. Oh, yeah. Oh, I gotta watch out for the big guy. Whoop. Smoosh. No, I don't have any more rockets. So this boss has a fairly predictable attack pattern, at least in the early stages right here. You can kind of see that he either throws the plasma ball at you or kind of does the big area attack and then rushes forward. He'll actually do something different if we get closer to him, which I will show you in just a minute here. Once we get rid of these ads. I don't need to be here anymore. Alright, one last big guy right here. Uh-oh. Straight up. Alright, big guy. So he's in close, he'll do a little stomp move right there, and you can see that I'm locked onto him. So when I'm locked onto him, my controls are really based on him. So it's like 3D. Essentially, you see the camera's focused directly on him, so when I move back, it's back in relation to him, whereas when I'm unlocked, it's just based on where my camera is pointing. So it's an interesting way how they have that all set up, actually. It can kind of get you in trouble, though, if you're not aware of when it locks on and when you kind of, you know, depending on what's going on around you. Oops! I got caught. This game actually does make you use your melee weapon quite a bit more than you would think. you don't necessarily just sit back and shoot everything all the time. Making good use of your melee is actually a great way to save on your ammo. You notice that I'm actually kind of running low on ammo. So conserving your ammo and actually being aware of how much you have is kind of necessary when playing this game on the harder levels. Crap, as you can see, I'm pretty much out of ammo. That's not good. So we're gonna have to beat this guy down with our melee. Woo! There we go. He caught me right there. Well, I picked up 2 magazines right there. Uh-oh. Alright, so he's down to half health, so he's gonna go into a slightly different attack pattern here. Call down some meteor strikes on me. Or artillery, whatever you want to call it. I'm currently using the ice modification on this guy, and I don't think that that is really doing a lot of damage. Each one of those don't seem to be doing a whole lot. Oops. We'll dodge this guy. I notice that there's some ammo over here. There we go. Oops. There's some more. I believe that was a rocket. We'll go ahead and blow him up with that one. Now you don't get any health. At least I've never seen any health here, so I have to be careful. I'm down to about a 2 1/3 bar right down there. If you get to the bottom, you'll die. You gotta be careful of that. You do get some continues if you want to, but that'll affect your battle rating if you beat the boss. Here, we'll do him in here. Got him. Bye-bye. So yeah, I think this first mission right here does a good job of kind of summing up the game. Definitely you have some different objectives. They kind of play with the different objectives, and you can see that we're going to fight harder and harder enemies, and that's a good boss battle. I really like that one. Alright, so we completed that mission right here. You can see our ratings. Very hard. Took me 9 minutes. Just a little bit longer than I was expecting. And then all of this stuff right here is actually different armor pieces. So I got some Titan faces and whatnot. I can go and unlock that stuff. Pretty cool. So if I go into armors here, I should see that I've unlocked some new parts right here. So like this one, this is like the little front flap right there. Let's go ahead and check that one out. That is the Blitz EXF skirt. Let's see what we got there. Interesting. So that's how that looks. So I was using the Assault MK1, but that's the difference right there. So there's definitely categories within the armors as well, like Assault Mark 1, 2, and 3. You can definitely see that right there. Or we get into the Titan bodies or the Blitz bodies right down here. If there's one thing that I would like to see here in the armor system is a way to actually set all of your armor to one set or the other. What you can do is you can go over here to your assemblies and just kind of pick all of your armors randomly if you really wanted to random things up. So you can go over here, click random, and just generate something new to kind of see just how that looks. And you can say maybe you don't want to change this piece, or that piece, and then random it again. But it'd be kind of cool to try to select all of the same armor type if you had it available. Because if there was one thing about the armor system that I don't really like is the fact that you can spend a really long time trying to pick through all of your options. For example, once we get into the colors right here and we get into the paint styles, I mean, it could take a long time to go through all of this. So for example, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 right there, and you can pick your different colors, and you can actually set up your own custom styles. So if we select a style for just the winglet right here, so I'm currently in dark orange, but if I wanted to go to something different, like let's say a blue sky metal, how can I apply blue sky to all the pieces that are orange on my frame? To me, something like that would really make kind of adjusting the overall look of your frame a lot faster than it currently is. And that would be a real nice bump in the quality of life department. And we can actually make our own colors as well. So if I were to set paint 2 right here to be custom style 1, right? And then I were to go in here and edit that style, I can actually make that my own version of red, or if I have some custom palettes right here. This is cool too. I think it would be a little bit neater if we had some sort of thing right here where we can just pick through our custom colors right there. So we can go 1, boom, 2, boom, 3, boom, or whatever like that, just to make it go a little bit faster. Now the actual strength of your mech is reflected here under the tuning section. So you can see here, this is all the core stats of your frame. And you can see how much durability we have, which is basically health, the fuel burn rate, that's another important one, and the armor, which is affected by how much weight you're bringing with you, essentially from your armor section. And then different things also augment that as well, the different engines and the different micro slots that you have on top of that as well. So these are kind of your core components. You can say maybe I want a charged engine or a loaded engine. And then it gives you different gear slots down there as well. You can change your operating system or the architect. This is all available in a different tab as well, which is found under development, which is kind of your core upgrade tree that you go through in order to unlock different components that allow you to modify your frame or use a completely different frame to begin with. So there's definitely some more plans here that's actually shown in the overall roadmap, but currently the version that we're playing right now is restricted to everything behind level 3. So even though this goes way out here, all the way to 7, currently we can only go about this far in the tree. So you can see right there, I unlocked the Siege mech frame. So if we go back to my frame right here, I can actually upgrade its stats just a little bit because that's a higher tier architect right there. So, whoops, I want to go to the right spot. Hang on, let me go there. So under here, I currently have a combat frame, but now I'm going to go with the Siege frame. This is just a big boost because it's the next tier up. So I got more power, more accuracy, and more attack damage, essentially. Nice. All right, so I've stripped this frame down to 0 armor. I'm gonna go ahead and try to make the coolest looking robot possible. It's probably gonna take me a little while. And I'm gonna warn you, I love glowy stuff. All right, so there we have it, the final design. I like it. This thing looks pretty sweet. Cool. Now I've gone ahead and modified my weapons here, so let's go ahead and run through one more mission here, just to kind of show you some different flavors that this game has to offer. All right, so this is mission number 5. We've been hired by the World Defense Force to kind of help bolster defenses against growing enemy activity. We're also going to team up here with the Valkyries and kind of help them out a little bit as well. Essentially, we're defending some shelters, and that's where humanity resides right now. There's actually some backstory within the stories as well. But essentially, these are just the enemies right here. These are a little bit different melee characters, and you can see that we now have some flying characters up there that will shoot laser beams at us or come down and try to attack us. Bam! My giant laser lance thing here is just beating them up. These enemies are not too hard, but we'll fight some harder ones here. There we go. I'm also using electric on these guys. Seems to do pretty good. Or I got the fire machine gun. Different weapons are going to be added to the game as the game continues to progress. So for example, like dual wielding would be really cool. So I'm looking forward to that. Hey there, buddy. I'm out of ammo. These guys take a lot of bullets sometimes. Yeah, so they can be a little bit bullet spongy, but then again, I am playing on very hard, so it kind of makes sense. There are some missions, though, where the enemies seem a little extra bullet spongy, and I think the community has kind of already responded to that one a few times, but those are my different rockets right there. They seem to be doing pretty good. They kind of track enemies like that, and they recharge over time, so I'll go out there and just do some real damage. You can knock these enemies down, beat them up with your lance. I'm not a real big fan of the two-handed weapons. They seem a little bit slow. I like the swords a whole lot more, or the knuckles. Attack speed seems to make a big difference when it actually comes to fighting these guys. So this, just like the last map here, has a bit of terrain that really leads you up to the main event. So this is another good map that I like as compared to some of the other maps that are available. The game does explore different ranges of map sizes. I think this one and the first one were... these are like the right size for the conflict that we're actually facing here. So Neon is actually from the Valkyries over here. She's actually being overtaken, so we're overrun by the enemies. We gotta help her out. So we're gonna blast them down with the rockets and then go in there with the melees and just cleaning these guys up. Get wrecked. Woo! Alright, so that was the tracking system taking over there as the enemy jumped up. It's kind of a love-hate relationship with the tracking system right now. I like it, but at the same time, it doesn't always show up at the right time. When things get really, really chaotic, sometimes it feels like it doesn't really select on the right thing. I don't know. And swapping between them doesn't always make sense. It isn't like it's going to the exact right one. You can kind of tell which one it wants to go to. But I think it would be a little bit better if it was kind of really focused more on the center of the screen, so you can kind of target the enemy you want a little bit easier. It kind of feels like it goes to the nearest target sometimes, not necessarily, and kind of retargets when an enemy goes underground, which I would rather it didn't. But there's been a lot of recent patches actually kind of addressing how the lock system works, so it's something they're playing around with. It works really good for the flying guys, so I like to use it for that. These projectiles are a little bit slow. They can't keep up with the thing. Hey! Nope! Wrong time! See, I ran out of ammo there, so I had to go fight this guy. Just in time for the enemy to show up. Alright, so this is where things start to get a little bit more difficult. Save my rockets for this moment. Okay, so we got some new power enemies here. The guys that are shooting those plasma ball things at us. The hard thing about those guys is that they don't give you an indicator of where they're attacking. So if they get behind you, that plasma ball can find you, and you don't see it coming. So it's not so hard on this map, but in the next map where the quarters are a lot closer than what they are right here, it actually makes it quite difficult. They also do this really fun thing where they teleport once you do enough damage to them. So just like that. So focusing down one target can be hard because sometimes they will trade places and you don't know where they've gone. But if we can interrupt them or knock them down and then combo them up with the melees, we can do a good amount of damage. Ooh, ow. Oops, I didn't lock onto anything. That's where I want it. There we go. You can't actually do melee in the air if you kind of boost up towards them. I would say the combat system in this game is kind of 2.5D. Whereas something like Armored Core, which I was a big fan of, that's has a little bit more flight mechanics. One thing I would like to see is them embrace verticality a little bit more. So like the ability to fly up in the air and use elevation changes to your advantage. I feel like that's just a really cool thing in mech games. Alright, I gotta be careful. My health is getting low here. Ow! There we go. Get some ammo. There's going to be a co-op mode, so this was kind of a good example here of how you have two different players on the same map, although one of them's an NPC in this example, but that'd be kind of cool. I don't know how many players it's going to be. They haven't found any details on that. There we go. Gotcha. One more. It's you or me. All right, get wrecked. So there you have it. That is what M.A.S.S Builder is all about. Building the coolest robot, customizing it, and then going to kill a bunch of aliens. I like it. It's a pretty fun little game, and I think it has a lot of potential to be pretty sweet here in the long run. Let me know what you think about it in the comment section below. Thanks for watching, and hopefully you guys have had a wonderful time here. Stay awesome, guys. Peace. Brothgar out.